This is the 6th training video for the CARE program. This is lesson 6, planning positive activities. So again, like the other lessons, we're going to take a quick look at the teacher manual to start here. Notice we've got our overview here, our objectives, and if we look here at the materials, students are going to need that student workbook. They're going to need their self-monitoring worksheet that they've been ranking those identified situations on every day. And then we have an extra thing for this lesson. You will need the pleasant reinforcement schedule, and you can find that in Appendix A. And when we get to that portion of the lesson, we're going to talk about that pleasant reinforcement. We'll talk about how you can use that specifically and how you can adapt that schedule to best fit your students in your setting. But that is in Appendix A for you to access. Okay, so once you are ready to start, we're going to do our normal review that we've been doing the past couple of lessons. So first, to start your session with your students, go ahead and practice one of those relaxation strategies. So briefly start your session with either 30 seconds of calm breathing or some muscle relaxation, choosing at least 3 or 4 muscles to focus on. Next, have students look at that self-monitoring sheet where they've been self-monitoring their identified situations. Make sure you praise students for monitoring. Encourage them to do so if they have not been. And then you can briefly discuss with students if anyone has seen changes in their ratings. At this point, we are not quite halfway through, so we would hope to hear soon to start seeing some change, even if it's small. So when you start seeing that change among students, you might prompt them to reflect on what might have caused that change or what they think is going well, and encourage them to continue to work at that. Next, go ahead and review the short-term goal that students set at the end of Lesson 5 and have them fill out that reflection question. And then finally, review the Lesson 5 homework. So if you remember, Lesson 5 was all about ranking different situations on a feeling scale. We talked about the intensity of our emotions and how certain things might elicit more intense emotions than other situations. And so you might, if you have time, ask students to share some answers from their homework and how they ranked it on the scale. And again, you can emphasize that people might feel differently about the same situation, and that's okay. So for example, someone might get really angry when someone calls them a mean name, and somebody else might just get really sad. And then once you are done going through Lesson 5 homework, you are ready to get started with Lesson 6. And Lesson 6 is called Planning Positive Activities. We've got 3 lesson goals here for students. We want students to understand how pleasant activities can improve our mood. We're going to identify activities that make us happy, and we're going to plan some times this week to do some pleasant activities. Okay, so this is the first page of the Lesson 6 student workbook, and you can find it on page 41. And so to begin, we are going to talk about how sometimes when we're feeling emotions that make us feel bad, it can be hard to start feeling better. We can kind of get stuck in this cycle. So if you're feeling sad or worried or angry, sometimes it's hard to stop feeling sad or worried or angry. And so sometimes it looks like a cycle, like a circle. So you can walk students through how you might be feeling bad. Maybe you don't want to start work or start an activity, and then a lot of times then you feel bad about not working, and then you continue not to work, and then you feel bad, and it's just kind of this vicious cycle that can be hard to get out of. And so one way to break that cycle is to do something pleasant. When you do an activity that makes you feel good, that you enjoy, it can make you feel better. It can give your mind something else to focus on for a little bit. And so you might have a news cycle here where you do a pleasant activity, an activity you enjoy. You might feel more hopeful, you might feel happier. That might give you more energy and an excitement, and then you can do activities because you have that energy to do so. So you can walk students through that concept there. And then take some time with students to identify some activities that they find pleasant. And so we went ahead and provided some here for you to look at. And we suggest having students identify their top 2 to 3 pleasant activities. So we've got going for a walk, drawing or some kind of art project, reading, writing, talking to somebody, helping in the front office or helping a staff member with something, listening to music, or playing a game. And then we left some lines there in case students came up with some other activities. We really do try and steer students away from choosing like playing on the computer or playing on the iPad, just because we kind of want them to have a break from that screen time and to pick another activity, something that doesn't necessarily require that technology, which can really challenge some students to find something that they enjoy that's not technology-based. And then you should also make sure that the choices that students are making are realistic activities that can be done at school. So, for example, if someone says, hey, playing with my dog is something I really like to do. It helps calm me down. It makes me happy. That's fantastic. But if their dog is not at school with them every day, we're going to want to focus on a different activity. And then they can write down their top 2 pleasant activities, the ones that they would enjoy doing the most. Okay, so the next page of the student workbook looks like this, and with the title, it's got My Activity Plan. And the idea behind this is we would want students to plan times of the day where they can engage in these pleasant activities. And ideally, we would have students engage in these pleasant activities before classes or situations where they might struggle. So for example, if we have a student that really struggles to transition from like after lunch recess into coming back into the classroom and working, they might engage in that quiet, pleasant activity right before they move into that. Or if you have a student that really struggles and dislikes reading or math, we would suggest that they would engage in that pleasant activity right before that class that they struggle with. And so that's kind of what this page is meant to do, is to help students kind of brainstorm and figure out when they would plan those activities. Now, depending on your setting and the students that you have, if it's not possible to have students engage in those activities right before a situation that really challenges them, like that situation that they've been ranking on their self-monitoring sheet every day, then we would at least suggest identifying 1 to 2 times per day where students can stop, take a break, and engage in that pleasant activity, because that's going to give them a chance to kind of reset, especially if they have been struggling with something, and hopefully leave that pleasant activity in a good mindset, ready to move forward with the rest of their day. This is the pleasant reinforcement schedule that is found in Appendix A. We went ahead and on the left column here, we've got the times in 30-minute increments, and then we've got a space for the activity on the right side. I realize that this time may not particularly match up with the schedule of the students that you're working with, so if you would like to modify this, you certainly can change up the schedule so that it's more personalized for your students in that schedule. But the whole point of having this was so it would be written down and students would know what time of day they would be engaging in that pleasant activity. At the bottom of that page, we also have a place here where they can write down their activity plan. The idea of having them write down the activity plan is that they are going to write down specifically what they're going to do, how long they're going to do it for, so that there is no question in what is expected from the student. So for example, if you have a student who is going to, let's say, draw for 5 minutes before math class because they really struggle in math class, makes them frustrated and angry at times, and so they're gonna start off math class with this pleasant activity. So maybe they're going to draw for 5 minutes. You can explicitly write in there, so and so will draw from this time to this time for 5 minutes before a math class. When it is time for math class, so and so will put their paper and their pencil away and be ready for math. And so then when you have it kind of written out like that explicitly, it can really make sure that students know what the expectations are for doing the pleasant activity, and hopefully make sure that everyone knows exactly what's going on, and this activity will go smoothly. And so those would be our recommendations for scheduling those pleasant activities. Next, we have our goal of the week, and so this is when we're going to set our goal to practice something we've learned in Lesson 6. For this week, one of those goals for the student may be that they just engage in their pleasant activity every day. And then steps they can take to reach those goals might be they're going to follow their activity plan. They're going to make sure that they're watching the clock. They're going to make sure that they remember what activity that they're going to use. Those are all steps that they can take to reach that goal. And then just as a reminder, this will be filled out next week, that bottom part. And then finally, once students are done, you can briefly discuss the homework for Lesson 6. And this homework is pretty simple. It's going to be students taking a minute to reflect on a time where they used their pleasant activity and how they felt after it, and if they think this would be a good activity to do again in the future. And that is it for Lesson 6. Please don't forget to send home that parent form so that, or the parent handout, so parents have an idea of what is going on in Lesson 6.